Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with beginning Sanskrit. We're following the text of Thomas Agenes. And we're in part 1. We're about to do lesson 10. So in lesson 10, we have a little bit more Sandhi, some more Sandhi rules to do. And he's going to introduce some pronouns and adjectives. For those of you who don't know what pronouns are, a noun is a naming word, a word that names something. A proper noun is the name of a person, place, or thing, an actual name. Let's say not a thing, but a person or a place, let's say a proper noun. A pronoun is like he, she, or it. You know, it's in the place of a proper noun. It's in the place of a proper noun or in the place of a noun. So it's like a noun. So it acts like a noun. Up until now, the pronouns that we've been translating have been included in the ending of the verbs. So if we say, for instance, bhavati, bhavati means he is, right? So he, she, or it is, like that. So it can mean he is, it can mean she is, it can mean it is. Now we're going to actually learn those pronouns, he, she, it, etc. And there are different types of pronouns also, as we'll see. There's demonstrative pronouns, there's interrogative pronouns. There's so many different types. Interrogative pronouns are used to start questions. Demonstrative pronouns are used to indicate this and that. Anyway, and adjectives. Adjectives are also, in Sanskrit, there's very little difference between an adjective and a noun. They're basically declined like nouns, and they're just basically like nouns. The verb us, the root verb us to be, and we have some more vocabularies including adjectives and participles. So let's have a look and see. Okay, so here we have now some remaining Sandhi rules that he didn't deal with in his previous charts. So what you should do is, of course, go back and look at the previous charts on Sandhi. And I'm also a very big fan of a different type of Sandhi, a different Sandhi grid which is done by Roderick Bucknell in his Sanskrit manual. So if anybody wants that, they can email me and I'll get that to them. Both of these tend to be a little bit succinct. They seem to be very, very concise. So if it's too concise for you, if you need it written out further, I'm trying to write out some myself, make some Sandhi grids, and you can ask me for those as well by email if you want. Otherwise, Panini is the one in his grammar who makes the Sandhi rules most concise. And if you really want to know the Sandhi rules, you can learn the sutras. There's not so many sutras of Panini, which make the rules very cryptic, but very, very easy to remember. Okay, so anyway, here's the Sandhi chart. So this is a Sandhi chart for final T, N, and M. We should also note that when he shows the final letters, we're talking here about what's called external Sandhi, the Sandhi, the coming together of two words, the final letter of the first one with the initial letter of the second one. And this is called external Sandhi, usually by Sanskrit grammarian, English, Western Sanskrit grammarians. There's another type of Sandhi which occurs within a word, perhaps between the stem or the base of the word and the ending. And that's called internal Sandhi. Really, it's really the same sort of rules. And that sort of distinction is not really made so much by Panini. But here, the point I was trying to make is that not all, in Sanskrit, not all letters end words. There are only a few letters that actually end, and consonants, let's say, that end words. So ka, ta, ta, pa, like that. These are ending letters that end words, and of course they change according to the next word, initial letter. So here we're looking at, specifically in this chart, we're looking at final T, dental T, not the cerebral T with the dot under it, the dental one, which is just like a regular T. pronounced with the tongue on the tip of on the back of the alveolar ridge on the back of the teeth, or even the tip of the teeth, on the teeth anyway. N, the N, which is also dental, right, which is also pronounced with the tongue and the teeth, and M, which is a labial, which is produced with the lips, ma. So ta, na, and ma. Those letters ending, but not with the vowel just the T and the N and the M, ending the first word, and then we have all the different letters that might begin the other word. So now, first, I'd like to have a look very quickly at the third column. So we have the T column, the N column, and the M column. If you look at the M column, this is a very simple Sanskrit Sandhi rule, that when an M, not ma, but M just by itself, without a vowel added to it, ends a word, and the next word begins with any consonant, that consonant changes that M into what we call anuswara. Anuswara is actually a separate sound from M. It's a pure nasal sound, but it is written in our transliteration system as an M with a dot under it. Sometimes you'll see it as an M with a dot over it. But so in different systems, in the International Scanners Organization system, it's with a dot over it. Otherwise, in the IAST proper system, it's with the dot underneath it. Doesn't matter. You can put the dot on top, the dot underneath. Doesn't matter. Try to be consistent though in your transliteration. But that is Anushwara. So we have at the top here we have M, and then we have another M underneath when followed by all vowels. Any vowel. So any vowel, any of the pure vowels. What are the pure vowels? I, u, ri, ri. These are pure vowels. So any word that ends in the pure vowel, that begins in a pure vowel, which follows another word that ends in M, the M just remains the same. And it's just attached to the vowel in the same way that we attach those vowels to consonants. So we can just put those two words together in Devanagari and attach them. Now, when it becomes Anushwara, however, when a consonant comes after it, any consonant, and also down the bottom he says end of a line. End of a line means that there's a danda, there's a punctuation mark in Sanskrit, which is either one danda or two dandas, vertical lines, one line or two lines, which shows that you should take a breath at that point, which are very much like a comma or a full stop or period in English text. So the end of a line, when the end of a line comes, the M will remain the same. See? Otherwise, and if it's followed by a vowel, it will remain the same. Otherwise, all the rest of them, it gets that dot under it. It becomes an Anushwara, no matter what it's followed by. Now he's divided up into two sections here. The top sections are the what we call gauche or soft or voiced consonants, right? Which are the second, third, and fourth. The second, third, and fourth in the lines of the families of the vargas, of the different kavarga, chavarga, like that, guttural, palatal, cerebral, dentals, and labials. Plus the nasals. So those are the third, the fourth, and the fifth in those series of five. Yava, rala, these are semivowels, and the aspirate ha. Okay, so these are all our soft letters. They're also called gauche in Sanskrit, also understood to be more vibration in the vocal cords. It's what we call voiced. There's more voice. Just think of it as they're more voiced. They're more voiced. Okay, and then below the line here, below this dotted line, we have the idea that the second word would begin with the hard consonants, which are also called aghosh, or also called unvoiced. So they are the first two in all of the different families. Kaka, cha-cha, ta-ta, ta-ta, pa-pa, right? Then we have the three S's, sibilants, and also the end of the line. And that wraps up the whole Sanskrit alphabet. So now we know when M comes at the end of a word, and whatever comes after it, we know it's either going to stay in M or it's going to turn into an Anushwara. It's a very, very simple rule. So nobody should even have to see this in a chart. We should just know it. It's this is a very simple rule. M remains M, or it becomes Anushwara if it's followed by a consonant. If it's followed by a vowel or the end of the line, it remains just like an M. Okay, so now we have these other two columns here. So we have ending in dental T and dental N. So I'm not going to go through them all, but basically you just have to look at the Sunday grid, and wherever they're followed by the particular consonants, and then coming in the beginning of the next word, you make the changes as is given in the chart. Right, that's the reason we have charts and Sunday grids, is so that we don't have to explain every single phonetic rule. Okay, so this has to be, you don't have to remember at this point in learning Sanskrit. What you have to do is you just have to have it printed out somewhere where you can easily access it when you're doing when you're doing any sort of exercise. So now he's given some subscripts here. Okay. So here, when an N is followed by, in the next word, by a vowel, dental N. So there's a superscript 1 here. So what does that mean? Let's have a look down here. If the vowel before N is short, right? So in the first word, if we have a short A, a short I, a short U, a short R before the N, which is the last letter, and then the next letter is a vowel. Yeah, in the first letter of the next word is a vowel, right? Then the N is doubled. The N becomes doubled, and you're not going to do a lot of. Maybe you're probably not going to do a lot of Sanskrit composition. You're going to do it the other way around. You're going to see Sanskrit, and you're going to be trying to translate it into English, breaking the sandhis. So it's a sure thing. If you look at a word, just remember this: if you look at a word and you see a double N somewhere in a big lot of Sanskrit, and you see a double N. For sure, not always, but in many, many cases, it'll indicate this sandhi, this type of sandhi. So you just break it. The way you break it is you just take one of the ends out and separate the words. Yeah? Okay. So now number 2, the second subscript is down here with that dental N, right? If it's followed by a palatal S. Palatal S means it's pronounced sh with the tongue flat, right? It's with an acute accent. In the diacritics, it's got an acute accent. We don't have grave accents in Sanskrit, but we have acute accents. So acute accents is like going upstairs. The grave accent is like coming downstairs. Okay, so I always remember it like that. And if we see a little carrot top, or it's called a carrot or a circumflex. Okay, so we don't have these other two, but we have the acute accent one. The acute accent one means it's a palatal letter. Palatal letter means it belongs to the same family of letters, cha, ja, nya, right? Nya. So that N, the palatal nasal, right, has a little wiggly line over the top, which is called a tilde, or tilde. And that makes it sound like the NY in the word onion, in the English word onion, nya, or in the Spanish mañana, nya. So it's nya. Okay, like it's pronounced like NY, nya. Okay, so then what happens is if we have a regular N, a dental N at the end of the first word, but then it's followed in the beginning of the next word. In the beginning of the next word by a palatal S, right? An S with an acute accent. Then that changes to that nya, changes to that N with the line over the top, that tilde over the top. The following S, right, may become, so he's saying may become, may not become, right, optionally, may become CH. So it's going to become nych, right? It's going to be CH. Okay. So then the third superscript that we have over here has to do with the dental D followed by H, the aspirate. So if we have a word ending in a D, right? Dental D. And the next word begins with an H, right? So it means the following H becomes DH. So the D remains the same at the end of the first word. What happens to the H though is what we call reduplication. It becomes DH. It becomes the Mahaprana or the aspirated version of the more air of this letter D. Dental D, right? Dental D, aspirate dental D, right? It becomes that. So it becomes DDH. So this is also very simple to see when you're looking through a Sanskrit that has got sandhis in it. When you see DDH, immediately think of this sandhi, and you can break the sandhi there. When you see DDH in the middle of a word, then you can try to break it into two parts, and the first word ends in a D. The second word will begin with an H, not a DH. So it's like breaking it there and pulling out a D, right? Just as we did up here when we had a double N. You take that second D out. That's how you break that sandhi. Okay, so now the fourth anomaly that we have here, right? The exception that he gives here is the follow. Okay, it's when we have the D, the T at the end. These are all in this column. We're talking about dental T at the end of a. I'm sorry. Let me go back and just reiterate what I said, which is just a little bit wrong. Okay, when you break that sandhi with DDH, the first word will end up eventually ending in a T. It'll end in a T. The second word will be ending in an H. But the T turns into a D and the H turns into a DH. So it becomes DDH. You break it into T and H, right? So I think previously I said break it and it becomes D and H. No, it becomes T and H. That's the full sandhi bit broken. Okay, so now we have a dental T followed by, again, this palatal S for the acute accent. Well, the dental T turns to a C. Why C? Because C is also C represents the same part of the same column, vertical column, right? It's an aghosh alpapran. It has little air, and it's also it's unaspirated and it's unvoiced, right? So the T is unaspirated and unvoiced, and the C is also unaspirated and unvoiced, but the C is in the family of the palatals, which is the same family as the letter that comes after it. What we're trying to do with sandhi is when we put two things together, when we're pronouncing one letter at the end of a word and pronouncing the other letter at the beginning of the word, we're trying to put them in the same family so that we avoid what is called hiatus, where we have to make a break in between because we're saying things we're making sounds from different parts of our mouth. So sandhi is all about trying to make the sounds from the same part of the mouth. So here we have the T, which is turning into the T, which is dental, is turning into the C, which is palatal, because it's coming up against another palatal letter. So it's changing to become like the next letter so that it's easy to pronounce. So it becomes C. But what happens is this palatal S can also becomes ch. Just like we had that example over here that we talked about before, where the nya is followed by the powerful s, turns into a ch. So another thing, so when you see this in Sanskrit, you're going to see cch. You're going to see ch. When you see cch, you break it. First of all, you break up the words and you get syach. Should in Vishnu Sahasranam we have an example of this. Syach, syac, shudras, such shudras. It's in the Palashruti. So what is that? When we break it, we first break it up, and it's going to be syach, shudras. Then the c at the end of syach is going to become t, syat, and the chu is going to become the powerful s, shudras. Right. So that's how you break it. That's how you break the sandhi. So when you see cch, break the c from the ch, turn the c into a t, turn the ch into a powerful s. There you have it, like that. That's how you break that sandhi. So we are being taught, when we get taught the sandhi rules, we're taught how to put the words together. But what we really need to know is how to break them apart more often when we're doing transliteration or translation. Okay, so examples for this chart can be found page 196 for a final M, which is called Anushwara Sandhi. Pages 205 to 207 for final N, right? And pages 218 and 219 for final T. Okay, so now, if you didn't understand all of that, what I was just saying about all the different families of letters and how they change to come together in Sandhi, don't worry about it. That's why we have charts, so that we don't have to think. We just have to look, and we have to see where is the combination? Where's the combination that we see in front of us? How to break it. Or if we're composing Sanskrit, this is at the end of the first letter, the first word, and this is at the beginning of the second word. How do we put them together? So that's why we have Sandhi grids, is so we don't have to remember all these things about the phonetics of the words. But I just wanted to explain it. So I hope that I've done a decent job of explaining the phonetics. But obviously, probably somebody can do better. But we don't need to know all the phonetic rules and things like that. We just need to know to be able to access those grids and use them properly. So now it says, many of the changes on this chart occur because the last letter of the first word is getting ready to say the first letter of the next word. What a great way to explain it. That's an easy way to understand. I was trying to say that. He said it in a much simpler way than I did. This rule, which often involves a change of voicing, is called regressive assimilation. And you don't have to remember that. A prior sound is assimilated into the next sound. So whatever place in the mouth that previous sound at the end of the first word is at changes to be assimilated into the place where a similar sound in the place where the next word is starting. The first letter of the next word is starting. There are a few additional rules which are used less often. They'll be discussed in lesson 18. So don't worry, it's a long way off, another 8 lessons. So we don't have to worry about any more rules until then. And these are all exceptions and very small rules, maybe some optional rules also. Sometimes there are optional rules. Right, there are no Sandhi changes if the first word ends in a vowel, right, excluding Visarga and Anushwara. Strictly speaking, Visarga and Anushwara are not vowels, so he didn't really need to say that. But sometimes you see in the Sanskrit alphabet they are listed after the vowels before the consonants. So that's why he said that. So there are no Sandhi changes if the first word ends in a vowel, excluding Visarga and Anushwara, and the second word begins with a consonant. Right? So if the first word ends in a consonant and the second word begins with a vowel, no problem. Just put them together. Nothing changes. If the first word ends in a consonant, the second word begins with a vowel, again, just put them together like that. If the first word ends in a vowel, next one ends in a consonant, put them together. That's it. So vowel and consonant, they go together, no problem. They don't change. So at one time, the manuscripts didn't have any breaks between words, sentences, or paragraphs in the written script. So when we write, so you can see, if you go online, you can access some manuscripts, Sanskrit manuscripts written in different scripts, but mostly in Devanagari script, but also in other forms of Devanagari script or other forms of Indic scripts. And they're all written as one big long word connected together. Right? So fortunately, modern editions, printed editions, have introduced spaces between the words. But originally, there were no spaces in the words. They would just keep writing, go to the next line, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. The whole book would be one big long word like that. And you would have to see the sandhis and break them. Right. So words are separated in Devanagari as much as possible without changing how they are written and without adding the virama. Now, do you remember what virama is? Virama is the little downstairs dash, which is a little dash which goes down which goes down at the end of a Devanagari letter, at the bottom of Devanagari letter to the right, from up to down, diagonally to the right, right? That shows that there is no inherent vowel with that consonant. So the virama, it's also called halanta by Panini. Anta means end, hal means a consonant. So the ending of a consonant without any vowel sign is called halanta. So it's also called virama. Here he calls it virama. So words are separated in Devanagari as much as possible without changing how they're written and without adding the virama. So he's not going to, we try to avoid using the virama, right? And we try to put things together, but as much as possible, he's going to try in this book to keep the words separate, right? Notwithstanding the sandhi rules. Here are the cases that result in the break between words. After sandhi has been applied, there's a break in the Devanagari between words when the first word ends in a vowel, which includes visarga and anuswara. For example, here we have some examples. So the first example is Ramaha gachati. Now that's without sandhi, and with the sandhi it becomes Ramo gachati. So he is keeping that separately. Ramaha prichati. It remains the same because before P, the visarga, the short A visarga doesn't change. So Ramaha prichati. Right? Here we have Ramam with that virama. That's the virama sign. Right? Ramam gachami. Ramam gachami. What happens with when that M is at the end of the first word and the next word is a consonant, ga is a consonant, so it turns into that dot on the top in the Devanagari, which is the anuswara. So it's Ramam gachami. So here we have the transliteration of those things there. So he's given an example where he says that this is a vowel. Okay, here it's a vowel. Here it's a vowel, right? Now, normally you would think, okay, remember I said if it ends in a vowel and begins in a consonant, you just put it together. In this case, don't put it together. Make it separate to show that they're two separate words, because it was. These are some examples, examples that he's giving. So if that he's going to make breaks in that way. If it's a vowel, here it's a vowel O, here it's a visarga, and here it's an anuswara. In all these cases, he's kept the space between the Devanagari words. So if the first word ends in a vowel and the second word begins with a vowel, and together they form a new vowel, so we have the example bhava and arjuna, right? So it ends in a short A, begins in a short A. This is what we call dirgha sandhi, where the short A's and short A comes together and becomes a long A, right? Bhava arjuna. then there can be no break in the Devanagari or Roman script. Then there can be no break. See point 10 on page 90. Okay, so that's it for Sunday. Now let's learn a little bit about pronouns. The word for pronoun in Sanskrit is sarvanaman. Sarvanaman. So sarva means all, naman means name. So pronouns decline. Now remember what declination, to decline something, means to add endings to a noun. So pronouns also decline just like nouns. So we know that the nouns that we've learned so far, we've learned masculine A-ending nouns and we've learned neuter A-ending nouns, right? So we've learned Rama, Ramal, Ramaha, and we've learned Patram, Patre, Patrani, right? So we've learned these different types of nouns. Now we're going to learn pronouns, and they have to be declined also in the same way, exactly the same way that nouns decline. This table does not give, however, the endings, but the entire first person pronoun, I, we, to, we, etc. Right, so this is the stem. The stem, which we don't really have to know very much about, is mud, right? Mud. Just like we say mom or mama, or these are, right? Mud, and mud, I, us mud, we. Us mud is the plural, we. And now this tends to be a little irregular, but it's used very often, so therefore we have to memorize it eventually. Both are any gender, so we don't have to worry about it being masculine, feminine, or neuter. This is how we say I or we, and how we decline it. So it goes like this. So you see on the side here, we've got nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative, right? Those 7 cases. We don't have a vocative. We have just the nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative. Okay. So it goes like this. Aham avam vayam. Mam avam ashman. Ashman. Maya avabhyam ashmabihi. Mahyam avabhyam asmabhyaha. Mat avabhyam asmat. Mama avayoho asmakam. Mayi avayoho asmasu. Right? So that's how we decline it. Now, here's another thing. You might notice that there are also alternate forms here on some of them. So in the accusative, singular, dual, and plural, we have ma, now, and naha. In the dative, we have may, now, and naha. In the genitive, we have may, now, and naha, right? So these are alternate forms, right? So these alternate forms are used when we have to have a shorter version for making up the number of syllables in a sloka, not going over the number of syllables required in a line or in a half verse, in a verse, or the second time that we use these words. And I think he'll probably say something about that. The Sanskrit words in parentheses are sometimes used. For example, ma, let's have a look at ma. Up here we have accusative singular is mom, but it can also be ma. Right. So, for example, ma is sometimes used instead of mom, except beginning a sentence. So normally what we see is that normally if we are beginning a sentence, or if we're starting off, the first time that we use this word, we'll use mom. And then if we have to use it again in the verse or in the sentence later on, we may use ma. Okay? That's what he's saying. Now, so that's the first person. That's the first person pronoun. First person pronoun. First person is what's called in Sanskrit Uttama Purusha, right? And now we have the second person. Second person. So the first person is I, we two, we, right? Of me, of me, of us two, of we two, like that. That's the first person. The second person has to do with you, and the stem is twad, you, singular. And yushmad, plural, you, right? There, it's also of both are of any gender, masculine, feminine, and neuter. So this is very useful. We're going to learn these because we don't have to learn different ones for masculine, feminine, and neuter. They're always going to be the same. So I, we, us, always going to be the same. Me, you, you two, you many. It's always going to be the same. And this is how this one is defined. So we also have here nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative. Once again, no vocative. Okay? So it goes like this. Tvam, yuvam, yuyam. Tvam, yuvam, yushman. Tvaya, yuvabhyam, yushmabihi. Tubhyam, yuvabhyam, yushmabhyam. Tvat, yuvabhyam, yushmat. Tava, yuvayoho, yushmakam. Tvayi, yuvayoho, yushmasu. Okay, so now we can also note that just like in the first person pronoun, in the second person pronoun, there's also some alternatives. And once again, they're in the accusative, the dative, right, and the genitive, right? Singular, dual, and plural. So what are they? In the accusative, tvam becomes twa, yuvam becomes vam sometimes, yushman becomes vaha. In the genitive, in the dative, tubhyam can become te, right? Yuvabhyam becomes vam, and yushmabhyam becomes vaha sometimes. And in the genitive, tava becomes te, yuvayoho becomes vam, and yushmakam becomes vaha sometimes. So that is it for pronouns for now. First person pronoun, second person pronoun. We now know those pronouns, and we know them in masculine, feminine, and neuter. All the different, and we know all the 7 cases of them, from nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative, right? Okay. So now let's talk about adjectives. Adjectives, the word adjective is called visheshana in Sanskrit, right? Vishesha means special. Speciality, we can think of it like that. So visheshana are considered nominals. They're considered to be nouns, subhanta. So Panini's word for nouns is subhanta. So he includes adjectives in that terminology, subhanta. Why does he call it subhanta? Again, we have the halanta, which was the virama. Anta means end. Or we have the word vedanta, veda anta. Anta means end. So what comes, halanta is, hal means a consonant. What comes at the end of a consonant is that little dash virama. That's called halanta. Here we have subhanta. What is subhanta? We can actually break the sandhi here. The B actually becomes a P. It is sup anta. What is sup? So according to Panini's code, in Panini's code of the Maheshwara Sutras, sup is, not in the Maheshwara Sutras, excuse me. In Panini's code, sup represents all of the different endings that we have for the 8 cases and the 3 numbers, right? Nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, locative, vocative, right? So all these 24 endings, right? 3 times 8, 3 numbers, 8 cases, all these 24 endings are called sup. They're called sup. The reason they're called sup is because it's made up, it's a big word actually, which is made shorter. Sup is like a set of endings. So it means sup. So it's sup. It's sup. So sup plus anta becomes subhanta. That means a noun. A noun is a subhanta. Anything that has these endings put on it is a subhanta, right? Is a noun. So adjectives are also nouns. Just like verbs have the verbal endings put on them. Verbal endings in Panini are called ting, because ting represents tiptasanti nipwasma sipwasma, right? Like that. These are the endings the 9 endings that are put on verbs, right? And there's different cases and there's different tenses and moods, but there's these basic 9 endings, which change from apanapada to parasmaipada. But when you get to know them, you understand, and they just change a little bit with Sunday and some other rules like that, and then you can understand them. So if it has the verbal endings on it, it's a verb. If it has the noun endings on it, it's a noun or an adjective or a pronoun. Okay. So this is called a subhanta, right? Adjectives. They're nominals or noun forms. They decline just like nouns, right? We just learned pronouns. They're also declined like nouns. So they're usually placed before the noun that they modify. An adjective is what? An adjective is a word that helps describe the noun, right? If I say a blue boy, Krishna is a blue boy. So the blue is the adjective which describes Krishna, the boy, blue boy, right? So blue is an adjective. So just like in English, we usually put the adjective right before the noun. Guess what? In Sanskrit also he says, usually we place the adjective before the noun that it modifies. So if we have blue, blue boy, and horse and girl, in a sentence like that, it'll mean blue boy unless the blue is near to the other, coming before the other noun. That's his point. Right. So before the noun that they modify, and it also agrees with that noun that it modifies, that it describes. An adjective is describing the noun. So it also agrees with the noun that it describes in number. Means if the noun it describes is singular, then it's singular. If it's dual, it's dual. If it's plural, it's plural. In case, so whatever case it's in, if it's nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, locative, vocative, whatever case it's in, right? It also is the same case, and gender also. So unlike the noun, which may have a fixed gender, right? The adjective takes the gender of the noun that it describes. So if I say a beautiful woman, and the word for woman is feminine, then the word beautiful will be feminine. It'll also be singular, but it'll be feminine. And if I say the dress of the beautiful woman will be genitive, possessive. So the word beautiful will also be in the genitive as woman is. So it agrees with an adjective comes before the noun which it describes, which it modifies, and it agrees in number, case, and gender with that noun. For example, the adjective beautiful is sundara. Sundara means beautiful. So here's an example sentence. We have sundaro, gajo, gachati. So we know what gachati means. Immediately we go to the end of the sentence and we look at the verb. Gachati means he goes. Present tense, third person, singular of gach or gum, to go. Right. So what is the subject of the sentence? Right? It's this he goes, or he, she, or it goes, right? The subject we're looking for is in the nominative case. There are two words here in the nominative case. When we break the sandhi of gajo and sundaro, they become sundaraha and gajaha. Both of them are singular nominative forms. Gajaha is an elephant. It's a masculine A-ending noun in the nominative singular. That is the noun. The noun, the elephant goes. If we take away sundara, the sentence is still complete. The elephant goes. The sentence can still be complete even just with the verb. The verb itself, gachati, means he goes, right? Or it goes. If we add what goes, the elephant is the subject. Gajo gachati or gajaha gachati means the elephant goes, right? Nominative singular. Now, if we want to describe the elephant, we use an adjective or a visheshana. In this case, sundaraha. Sundaraha. Right? Now, sundaraha, it has to be given the same ending as gajo. Right? It has to be given a nominative, singular, masculine ending. So, instead of, we don't say Sundari, we don't say Sundaraya, we say Sundaraha, Gajaha, Gachati, right? The adjective agrees with the noun, the nominative, the subject of the sentence, the Gajaha, in number, in case, and in gender, right? So it's declined in the masculine nominative singular, just like Gajaha is masculine nominative singular. Very easy. That's the example. The beautiful elephant goes. So if a genitive case is also modifying a noun, the genitive goes closest to the noun. The genitive goes closest to the noun. So let's take the same sentence, Sundaro Gajo Gachati, and let's add in it who the elephant belongs to. The elephant belongs to or is possessed by the king. The genitive singular of the A-ending masculine noun Ripaha is Ripasya. So we get Sundaro and Ripasya Gajo Gachati. Why Sundaro doesn't go close to Gajo? Why isn't it Ripasya Sundaro Gajo Gachati? That's because of this, what he just said, is that the genitive goes closer. The genitive and the word, that there's a relationship of possession between Ripasya, of the king, and Gajaha, right? The elephant, nominative singular. So it is Sundaraha, Ripasya, Gajaha, Gachati, with Sandhi, Sundaro and Ripasya, Gajo, Gachati, right? The beautiful elephant of the king goes. Right. Here's another example. Sundarasya, Ripasya, Gajo, Gachati. Right? Sundarasya, Ripasya, Gajo, Gachati. So now here we have what? Instead of Sundaraha, which agrees with, which is an adjective describing the elephant, here we have Sundaraha, but it's not Sundaraha, it's Sundarasya, which is the genitive singular of Sundara, of the adjective. So the adjective describes the king and not the elephant. So the first sentence says the beautiful elephant of the king goes. The second one says the elephant of the beautiful king. Who's beautiful goes? Who's beautiful in this sentence? The king and not the elephant. In the first sentence, the elephant is beautiful because the elephant, Sundaro, and Gajo, or Sundaraha and Gajaha, when we break the Sandhi, right? They are the same case, the same number, and the same gender. In the second sentence, Sundarasya is not the same case as Gajo. Sundarasya is genitive singular. Gajaha, right? Gajo becomes Gajaha, breaking the Sandhi, is nominative singular. So they're not the same case. So they don't go together. They don't describe it. The Sundara doesn't describe the elephant. It describes the king. Why? Because the king, Ripasya, is in the genitive singular, and Sundarasya is also in the genitive singular. So what agrees with Ripasya in number, case, and gender is Sundarasya, right? What agrees with beautiful is the king and not the elephant. So it's not the elephant in the second sentence which is beautiful, it's the king which is beautiful. The elephant of the beautiful king goes. Right? Okay, so I hope that's clear. So one of the most common roots in Sanskrit, that's the end for explanation of Visheshana, which means adjectives so far. Right, and that'll become clearer as we begin to use them. Just remember that they usually go before the noun, and the exception to that rule is that we're going to put in, if we put in a genitive, a possessive word, a word in the genitive case, that will go in between, also before the noun that it possesses. Yeah, the thing which it possesses, which is to be possessed. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the root as. One of the most common roots in Sanskrit is as, just like bu. Bu is also to be, as is also to be. So we have had another root, bu, which also means to be, but as is much more common. It's used here to mean there is, and is a copula. A copula means it holds things together. There is a horse. There is a horse. The example here is the word ashvosti. Ashvosti. We break the Sunday, we get ashvaha, asti. So the verb as in the third person singular, the third person singular. You know how we do bhavati, bhavataha, bhavanti, bhavati, asti is when we see that T, we know that that is the third person singular. So asti is like bhavati. So asti is the verb. Ashvaha, which is here with the Sandhi becomes ashvo, right? And you put it in a vagraha there, and the A of asti is dropped through the Sandhi. It becomes ashvosti. Ashvosti is, with the broken Sandhi, is ashvaha asti. Ashvaha asti becomes ashvosti. Okay, it means there is a horse. There is asti. A horse is in the nominative singular, ashvaha. Okay, let's do another one. Ramo riposti. Again, we get this asti with a short a in the beginning of it, asti, right? And because of the short a visarga in ripaha, right? The sandhi is ripo. Ripaha asti becomes riposti. So Ramon riposti, right? If we break the sandhis, we get Ramaha, nominative singular, Ripaha, nominative singular, asti, right? Third person singular, present tense, right? So Ramon riposti becomes Ramaha, Ripaha, asti. Rama is the king. Now we notice here that Rama and Ripa are both in the same, they're both in the same case and the same number. They're singular, they're masculine, of course, they're both masculine. Rama's masculine noun, Ripa's a masculine A ending noun. But they're both nominative and they're both singular. They're both nominative singular. So they're in the same number in the same case. Like that. So they're actually nouns in apposition is what we say, but you don't have to remember that. But they're Rama is the king, right? Rama is the king, right? We could also translate this as there is a king, Rama. There is a king, Rama. That's another way of saying this in English. He's translated as Rama is the king. We can say there is a king, Rama. That's also another way to say it. Okay, so here is the present indicative lut. Okay, so up until now, there's a thing called lakaras. Kara means a sign. La, the sign of la, there are these different tenses and moods in Sanskrit verbs, and they're described as lut, lit, lut, rin. There's different ones. We've only learned the present indicative, which can be translated as either present continuous or simple present tense in English. Right? So we've only learned that so far. That's the only tense that we've learned so far. So we're going to learn the verb as in the present tense, present indicative tense, which in Sanskrit is called lut. Right. These are not the endings, but the entire verb. This is the entire verb. So just as we had bhavati, bhavataha, bhavanti, bhavasi, bhavataha, bhavata, bhavami, bhavavaha, bhavamaha. We have, for us, we have asti, sta, santi. Asti, sta, staha, santi. Asi, staha, sta. Asmi, svaha, svaha, smaha. Okay? That's how we conjugate. That's how we conjugate the verb us, the verb us to be in Sanskrit. Note how closely this is related to the endings of the active verbs. Remember those active verbs, those parasmaipada endings of the verbs, bhavati, bhavataha, bhavanti, bhavasi, bhavata, bhavata, bhavami, bhavavaha, bhavamaha. Very, very close to this. The endings are very close. Note also that the singular forms, which will be this column here, the first left-hand column, right, begin with A, right? Asti, asi, and asmi, right? Whereas the dual, the second column and the third column to the right, right, begin with the letter S. Begin with the sound S, dental S. That's interesting. See? So if we set it down like this, it would be asti, asi, asmi. But then we've got sta, staha, and sva. Santi, sta, and smaha. Smaha. Okay? But we don't say it like that. In Sanskrit, we always say third person, second person, first person, which is Prathama Purusha is third person in Sanskrit. Dvitiya Purusha, right? And then Uttama Purusha, right, is first person in English. Right? In Sanskrit, it's Uttama Purusha. So we have Asti, Staha, Santi. Asi, Staha, Sta. Asmi, Svaha, Smaha. Okay, that's how it's done. So this verb is often understood. It's often understood. So we don't even need to put this here. Just like the word bhavati also is sometimes understood and we don't even have to put it. It's just understood. So if we see the example he's going to give here is those two words, ramaha and ripaha, in apposition in the same case, in the same number. Without the verb, it's understood that the verb to be is automatically understood to be there. So that is, the verb is meant, but it's not written in the sentence. And here's the example. Here's the full sentence. Ramo riposti, which we break the sandhis, it becomes ramaha, nominative singular, ripaha, nominative singular, asti, third person singular, right? The Rama is the king, or there is a king Rama, right? We could also just say this without asti at all. We could just say ripo ramaha, ripo ramaha. We could say Ramo and ripaha. We could also say it that way, right? Rama is the king. Just by saying Rama and king in the same number and the same case. Nominative case, singular, right? Notice that, so basically what we're saying is there's a king. So if we say there's Rama, right? Rama, and we're using Nripa, the king, like an adjective to Rama, to describe Rama. Who is Rama? Rama is a king, right? Or who is the king? The king is Rama. We could use Rama as an adjective. So you understand why adjectives and nouns are basically the same thing, because you can use, here they're using like a noun, one noun, in the same case a number as the other noun, to describe the other noun. What kind of Rama is he there? It's the king Rama. It's not the boy Rama. It's not the sage Rama. It's the king Rama. What kind of king is there? It's Rama the king. Rama is the king. Rama is the king. There might be other kings, but this one is Rama. He's described as Rama. So we're using one noun to describe the other noun. Therefore, one noun is like a visheshana, is like an adjective, because it's in the same number and case. And there's no need for a verb there. It's just understood. Rama's the king, or there is a king, Rama. Okay. So notice that when the verb is understood, the predicate nominative, king, right, is sometimes placed before Rama. Right? So here, what he's saying is that in the first complete sentence, Rama came first and then came the king. Right? Ramo ripo. Ramahan ripaha asti. Ramo riposti. Right? But in the other sentence, sometimes you could do it both ways, but sometimes we'll put ripo first, because it's called a predicate nominative, or it's a noun in apposition, right, in the same case and number. And so therefore it acts like an adjective for Rama. It's Rama who is the king. Right, Rama is the king, right? And sometimes that's placed before. Sometimes that's placed before, just like an adjective is placed before a noun. Okay, so often this verb begins a sentence, right? What verb are we talking about? We're talking about the verb to be in the present indicative lut case, right? Lut conjugation, right? Tense, lut, present indicative tense of the verb to be us, right? So often this verb begins a sentence. For example, here's an example sentence. Asti ripo dasarato rame. Right, so let's break this up. Asti doesn't need to be broken. It's the third person, singular, of the present indicative tense of the verb to be, asti, right? He is, right? Or it could be translated as there is, right? Then we have nripo. Nripo is nripaha. When we break the sandhi, it's nominative singular of king. Dasarato is also dasarataha, which means is a proper noun. It's the name of the father of Rama, right? And it's also in the nominative singular case. So Nripo Dasarata tends to make me believe that Nripo is describing Dasarata. It's in the same number in case. It's acting like a visheshana, like an adjective, and it's describing Dasarath. So which Dasarath? The Dasarath who is a king. So King Dasarath, right? Then Rame. Rame means locative singular of Ramaha, ending masculine, is it ending masculine or neuter, whatever it is. It's locative singular. It means in the village. So there is Asti, a king Dasaratha, by name Dasaratha, or there is King Dasaratha in the village. So he's translated as there is a king Dasaratha in the village. We can also say there is a king, or there is King Dasaratha in the village. We don't have to say a king. A king, the king is all the same in Sanskrit. There's no a, there's no the, there's no. In English, we say a is an indefinite article, right? A thing. The is the definite article. That thing, the thing. A thing, the thing. The indefinite and definite articles are a and the. So they don't exist in Sanskrit. We just say king in Sanskrit. So there is a king, there is the king, there is King Dasarath in the village. This all means the same thing in the English, and that's the way it's put in Sanskrit. Okay, so now we have vocabulary. So we'll just quickly go through the vocabulary and then we'll finish it here, and everybody can go over the exercises in their free time. Ativa is an indeclinable. It means very. Api is an indeclinable. Also or to, placed after the word that it's associated with. As is the root of the verb to be, as. It becomes third person singular, lat, present indicative tense, asti. He, she, or it is. It can also mean there is or there are, etc. Asmad, plural pronoun, we. Aho is an indeclinable, meaning hey, aha. Evam, an indeclinable, thus or in this way. Kupita is an adjective meaning angry. Tvad is a singular pronoun meaning you, second person pronoun, whereas asmad is a plural first person pronoun, we. So tvad means you, second person pronoun, singular. Means you, singular, means thou. Dharmika is an adjective meaning virtuous. Nama is indeclinable, by name, placed after the word it's associated with. So Ayodhya, Nama, the city of Ayodhya, by name Ayodhya, by the name of Ayodhya, right? Gramaha, Ayodhya, Nama, the village of the name Ayodhya. Okay, so then we have Purna, again, we often see it as Punaha, again and again, right? So it's an indeclinable. Even though it's an indeclinable, that doesn't mean that the ending doesn't change with sandhi. Just remember that, right? So normally we're understanding indeclinables, the endings don't change, but they do change with sandhi. So it's not completely the same all the time. Sometimes it changes with, so punar can be punaha, right? So beta is an adjective meaning afraid. Mud is a singular pronoun meaning I, right? And it can be aham, ashman, like that. Yushmad, a plural pronoun. That's mud is first person pronoun, singular, and yushmad is a second person plural pronoun. You, plural you, not the same as twam. Twam is, right? Do we have twam up here? What do we have? Twad is you singular, right? Yushmad, you plural. Sundara is another adjective of Visheshana, meaning beautiful. Okay, so now we get to the exercises.